Hinn. In this video, I share some difficult news from the world of Christian ministry that honestly breaks my heart. Just last week, televangelist Benny Hinn and his wife Suzanne finalized their second divorce after over 4 decades of shared history. Now, I know Benny Hinn is a controversial figure and we'll touch on that, but at the end of the day, this is a story about two real people, a family affected, and honestly, it's a reminder that ministry leaders face the same struggles we all do. So let's dive into what happened, the timeline of their relationship, and what this means moving forward. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. And if this topic resonates with you, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. So here's what we know. On November 24, 2024, Judge Jeffrey M. Rich in Hillsborough County, Florida, granted the divorce between Suzanne and Benny Hinn. The county records show it was finalized as a non-contested dissolution of marriage, which means both parties agreed to the terms without going to trial. Florida is what's called a no-fault divorce state, so Suzanne didn't have to prove Benny did anything wrong. She simply had to tell the judge that the marriage was irretrievably broken, and after reviewing everything, the judge agreed. Now, what makes this particularly heartbreaking is that this is their second divorce. Yes, you heard that right. Suzanne actually filed for divorce once before, back in 2010, but the couple reconciled and remarried in 2013 at Trinity Broadcasting Network's Holy Land Experience in Orlando. At the time, it seemed like a beautiful redemption story, a second chance at love and ministry together. But here we are in 2024, and that second chance has come to an end. Benny and Suzanne met back in 1979. Benny was a traveling evangelist at the time, still building his ministry, still finding his way. Suzanne's father, Roy Harthorne, was the pastor of Calvary Assembly of God, a large megachurch in Winter Park, just outside Orlando. It was one of those classic stories where the traveling preacher meets the pastor's daughter. Benny actually wrote about their meeting in his autobiography called He Touched Me, describing it as a divine appointment. They married that same year, and for decades, they built a ministry empire together. Suzanne wasn't just Benny's wife. She was his partner in ministry, standing beside him at crusades, appearing on television, raising their 4 children. For over 30 years, they presented a united front. They survived scandals together, weathered criticism together, and grew what became one of the most recognizable ministries in the world. The Benny Hinn Healing Crusades became massive events, drawing hundreds of thousands of people. But behind the scenes, clearly, something was fracturing. The first cracks became public in 2010, when Suzanne filed for divorce. At the time, it sent shockwaves through the Christian community. Here was one of the most prominent televangelist couples in the world, and they were splitting up. The details of that first divorce were kept relatively private, which I actually respect. They didn't air their dirty laundry publicly, though there was plenty of speculation in the media and Christian circles. But then came what seemed like a miracle. In 2013, Benny and Suzanne reconciled. They didn't just quietly get back together. They held a full remarriage ceremony at the Holy Land Experience, which was owned by Trinity Broadcasting Network at the time. It was publicized as a testimony of restoration, forgiveness, and God's redemptive power in marriage. Many people, myself included, were genuinely moved by this. If you've been through relationship struggles, you know how hard it is to rebuild trust and choose to try again. It seemed like they were giving their marriage another shot, and we all hoped it would work. Fast forward to July 2024. Suzanne filed for divorce again, this time noting in the filing that she and Benny were living in separate homes in Florida more than 60 miles apart. That detail really struck me because it suggests they'd been separated for a while before the filing even happened. According to Benny Hinn's communications director, the split was for undisclosed personal reasons. And despite the divorce, the couple maintains a deep connection and remains involved in each other's lives. They asked for privacy during this difficult time. And honestly, I think we should give them that privacy. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know the full story, the struggles they faced, the efforts they made to save their marriage. What we do know is that divorce is painful. It's not entered into lightly, especially not the second time around. The divorce was finalized as uncontested, meaning they worked out the terms together. According to reports, the couple had acquired at least $4.7 million in real estate during their second marriage, and Florida is an equitable distribution state, meaning assets are divided fairly, though not necessarily equally. Now, I think it's important to provide some context about where Benny Hinn's ministry has been in recent years, because it's relevant to understanding the pressures this couple may have faced. Benny Hinn Ministries reached its peak in the 1990s and early 2000s. At one point, the ministry employed almost 400 people and was broadcast on major Christian networks worldwide. The Healing Crusades were massive, spectacular events that drew enormous crowds. But the ministry faced significant challenges. Investigative reports raised serious questions about the healing claims made at these crusades. Financial practices were scrutinized. Major Christian networks like Trinity Broadcasting Network and Daystar eventually dropped its programming. By 2020, the ministry had scaled down dramatically. Records show that during the pandemic, the World Healing Center Church, Hinn's ministry organization, received a Paycheck Protection Program loan to retain just 25 employees. That's a massive reduction from the nearly 400 at its height. However, 2024 has seen something of a resurgence. Benny held large crusades in Kenya, Uganda, and Zimbabwe, claiming massive crowds, though the exact numbers have been disputed. He's clearly still active in ministry, still preaching, still holding events. I share all this because ministry pressure is real. The scrutiny, the criticism, the financial stress, the constant travel, it all takes a toll on marriages. I'm not making excuses. I'm simply acknowledging that leading a public ministry while trying to maintain a healthy private life is incredibly difficult. So what do we take away from this heartbreaking story? First, I think it's a reminder that ministry leaders are human. They struggle. They fail. Their marriages can fall apart just like anyone else's. Being in ministry doesn't make you immune to relationship problems, and in some ways, the unique pressures of public ministry can make things harder. Second, this story highlights the importance of prioritizing marriage over ministry. I don't know what happened in the Hinn marriage, but I do know that too many ministry leaders sacrifice their families on the altar of their calling. Your first ministry is to your spouse and children, not to the crowds or the cameras. Third, I think we need to approach stories like this with grace and compassion rather than judgment. Yes, Benny Hinn has been controversial. Yes, there are legitimate criticisms of his ministry practices and theology. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a real couple going through real pain. Their children are dealing with their parents divorcing for the second time. That's heartbreaking, regardless of who the people are. Fourth, this is a reminder about the danger of putting leaders on pedestals. When we elevate ministry leaders to celebrity status, when we act like they're somehow different from the rest of us, we set them up for impossible expectations, and we set ourselves up for disappointment. They're just people, saved by the same grace, struggling with the same flesh. And finally, if you're in ministry and your marriage is struggling, please get help. See a counselor. Take a sabbatical. Step back from public ministry if you need to. Your marriage is more important than your platform. Your family is more important than your reputation. Don't wait until it's too late. Look, I don't know what the future holds for Benny or Suzanne Hinn. I hope they both find peace and healing. I hope their children are surrounded by love and support. And I hope that those of us watching from the outside can learn something from their story.
She doesn't take
If you're
a
struggling
thing
in
for
your
the last
marriage,
16
if you're
months,
facing pressure in
nothing.
ministry,
Thank you, Jesus.
if you're feeling like you have to
And this
choose
is
between your
also
calling and your
something
family,
that many of
please
you
hear me.
ladies can
Your
relate
family
to,
comes
because there's
first.
a lot of women out there
Always.
who
Get the
are
help you need.
taking medications
Fight for your
all
marriage.
kinds of things.
Don't become another
Probably more than
cautionary
you would even
tale.
imagine.
Well,
Thanks for watching
it
this
was a
difficult
shock to me to
update with
find
me
out
today.
Pastor's wife.
Huh?
If you found this
Especially
helpful or
pastor's wife.
thought-provoking, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, but please keep it respectful and compassionate. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.